Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss how fear and uncertainty can help lead to personal development.
And on our Coach's Corner, we're going to go over the top 3 retirement fears that you need to be aware of.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you how to overcome the top 3 retirement fears so that you can be successful in retirement.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better. You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches. I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and apply them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we want to discuss how fear and uncertainty can help lead to personal development.
That's right, Wendy. We all have fears in life in one way or another. You know, in my office and with my family, I'm always preaching to my kids and my staff that it is okay to be uncomfortable and take chances and really even to fail, because that's how that's how we grow. It's our failures that drive us, not our successes. And the key, though, is to learn from those failures, and overcoming your fears leads to personal development. But many people would rather stick to their routines and not worry about feeling uncomfortable. All a consistent routine really does is dull your sensitivities. Think about driving, for example. All of those times where you have driven the same route over and over, and after a certain number of trips, you likely may tune most of it out. Have you ever had one of those trips where you barely remember what happened after you got in the car? And if so, because it has become a routine and you've tuned most of it out. But if you don't get out of your comfort zone, especially as you get closer to retirement, it could be detrimental to you, your spouse, and to your family.
I have many things I fear. One of them, spiders. Arachnophobia, there was a whole movie about it.
Right.
But one time for a TV show, I had to hold a tarantula as big as my hand. And honestly, I was terrified. I was sweating. But after that, the little spiders, they don't bother me as much. So I grew from that terrifying experience of holding a giant tarantula in my hand.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times my kids are afraid of something and I tell them to face their fears, and once they overcome it, they really feel like they have accomplished something. And how does that transfer over to retirement planning and financial planning? Well, today we're going to talk about the 3 largest retirement fears that most people face. Not only do we want to bring those fears out and bring attention to them, but we want to show you how to overcome those fears so they don't continue to weigh on your mind when you get to retirement or as you get closer to retirement.
All right, well, that's going to be a good segment. We've got a lot of good information coming up, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your monies that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement.
Welcome back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today on the Coach's Corner, we're going to go over the top 3 retirement fears that you need to be aware of.
Today's show focuses on fear, but in a good way. As we mentioned earlier, fear can create a lot of personal development. In order to grow in life, most people aren't going to continue to do the same daily routine over and over year after year. Instead, they will be open to making changes in order to face the fears that they encounter along their life journey. When it comes to fear in retirement, it can be very overwhelming, not only for pre-retirees, but for those of you who are retired as well, particularly because this is uncharted waters, and most people aren't familiar with what retirement has to offer. Unless you spent your working career solely in the retirement industry, you're probably not going to know what to expect every step of the way, and that's understandable. You have all worked your life at a different position, something that you were good at, that you helped get you to the point where you can even think about retiring. But once you do reach retirement, now you have to start thinking about life differently so that you can be successful through this phase. You should understand your fears, what your fears are going into retirement, and be open to face those fears.
Well, and you know, Chet, I think everybody's fears are going to be different. And, you know, we commonly talk about changing when it comes to your employer or changing jobs. We talk about retirement. It's, in a way, changing jobs and making a change. And everybody, a lot of people don't like change. So, you know, we just want to talk about some of the most common fears we see when it comes to retirees today.
All right, well, it's time to face some of those fears and talk about
That's
the
right.
number one fear that people have in retirement.
The number one fear, of course, for most retirees and those of you that are getting ready to retire in the next 5 to 10 years is outliving your money. According to a recent survey conducted by the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies, 51% of survey respondents said their biggest fear is outliving their money. And the 2 reasons for this: number one, we are all living longer. And the other problem is today, as we talk about on this show almost every single week, is today, less than 20% of American workers have a pension. So you worked real hard, I hope you saved up enough money, and all of a sudden when you retire now, hopefully you have a 401k or some kind of a retirement account, and this money has to last throughout the rest of your life. So those are really the biggest fear that we find with most retirees today in our office almost on a daily basis, Chad.
Well, and I think, you know, as you mentioned, you know, most retirees, they're looking for projections. They're kind of wanting to know what they're going to have when they do retirement. But as you mentioned, you know, the biggest thing and the biggest reason this is the number one fear is they don't have a plan. They may need to know how much they need, but all of a sudden, how do they create that plan to make sure they have a pension or some kind of income that's going to last throughout the rest of their life?
And I would say, you know, we talk about facing those fears, Wendy. I think what we find with a lot of retirees today, they don't face this fear. They really don't think about the income they need until it comes 3 months or 6 months from retiring. Now they're trying to figure all that out, and you really want to plan ahead for that.
Want to plan ahead, definitely. Well, number 2, what would you say is the number 2 fear?
Of course, Social Security. People ask us all the time with Social Security, when should I draw it? How should I draw it? Is it going to be there? And so that's the number 2 fear. For many years, Social Security has been a staple and a secure source of income for retirees. However, today, question marks are really starting to form around that. And by 2037, Social Security's trust fund reserves are projected to become exhausted. So what that means is you're only going to get approximately 76% of your scheduled benefits are projected to pay out. And I would say maybe 20, 30 years ago when you had a pension, you had Social Security, that's really all that you needed. We talked about pensions going away, and of course now we're talking about Social Security. The inflation, the raise you get on that are minimal, and of course now we're talking about eventually those coming down.
Yeah, and I think we all have to kind of expect some maybe changes coming to the forefront when it comes to Social Security. What these changes are going to be, we really don't know, but we've seen some really small changes in the past with file and suspend, some of these strategies being taken away for retirees. So we have to expect some changes being made in the future moving in to help protect Social Security. But as Chad just mentioned, there's some question marks around Social Security, so you have to kind of have some of that factored into the retirement income you're going to need.
So be aware of those potential changes.
Correct, yes.
All right, we've got a third and final fear.
The third and final fear is the declining health that requires long-term care. You know, this final fear should not be overlooked. Unfortunately, it is. It is one thing that can wipe out your nest egg in retirement. And the answer is,
You know, we talk about nursing home, long-term care expenses. A lot of people, again, we don't want to face our fear. We don't want to think about the bad things that could happen about spending time in a nursing home or an assisted living facility or having somebody come into your home and take care of you. Unfortunately, if you don't plan for this, this could be the one thing that could wipe out everything that you've owned. And we think about in our area, those costs today in our area could be anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 a month. Just think about what that's going to be 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Yeah, and I think a lot of retirees, this is something it's easy to be procrastinated, that topic, push this topic down the road and deal with it later. But as we're starting to see, you know, a lot of our clients that are, you know, 50, 55, 60 years of age, they've witnessed their parents or grandparents going through this nursing home experience, needing some type of long-term care. So it's becoming more and more relevant, and retirees are needing to know that they do have a plan for this.
Yeah, I just moved my own parents into a facility, so luckily they did some planning.
Absolutely.
But still, a lot of factors, like you say, you just don't know how long.
And it's better to plan for the unknown and face those fears.
Some good information.
Yeah.
We have more information for you to download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. And coming up on Chalk Talk, we're going to show you how to overcome those top 3 retirement fears so that you can be successful in retirement.
Let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team. That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back in, everyone, to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just went over the top 3 retirement fears. Now we want to show you how to overcome those fears so that you can be successful in retirement. We all want that.
Absolutely right, we do. You know, the top 3 fears that we just went over concern many of you who are retired or thinking about retiring in the next 3 to 5 years. And we see this all the time in our offices. There are other fears that people stress about too when we think or talk about retirement. But regardless of what fear you have or what hurdle you have to get over, the key is to have a plan. Work with someone who can help build a retirement plan for you that cannot for each of those fears that you have, but also somebody that's been there before, somebody that has seen the hurdles that you have to overcome when it comes to retirement, and really put your mind at ease when thinking about these fears, because you know that you have a plan in place to overcome those fears no matter what they are. So now what we want to do is we want to show you how to overcome the top 3 retirement fears so that you can be successful in retirement.
You know, Chad, I kind of often think about, you know, going into any kind of situation, and when you're really not prepared, you don't have a plan, you're kind of just winging things, and it's really not a very good feeling. And we often see that a lot when, you know, people coming into our office, they're getting ready to retire in 3 months, as you mentioned earlier, and they haven't been proactive to kind of have some kind of game plan. It's just not a good feeling. So it's so much more, gives you more peace of mind to have that plan in place and the importance of building that plan.
Wendy, you can't wing it when it comes to retirement.
I've learned that from you guys.
That's
and
right.
It's a good thing you're here because you can help people walk through all this.
That's
so
right.
Today we're going to start off with overcoming the first retirement fear, and that fear is running out of money.
Not only is it the biggest fear, but also it's one that's becoming more and more of a concern. So as you can see on your screen here, number one, outliving your money. So number one, working longer. If you decide to work longer, it not only allows you to build a bigger nest egg by contributing to a retirement plan, but it also provides you with an income stream while you are working instead of pulling from your nest egg. Number two, create a retirement budget. According to a recent research from the Employee Benefit Research Institute, nearly half of retirees increase their spending immediately after retiring, sometimes by more than 20%. And you need to create a budget and understand all of your expenses in retirement. As you can see here, number three, determine whether more guaranteed income might help. You know, one of the ways you can do that, of course, pensions, Social Securities, but if you don't have that, you need to build your own private pension. And the way to do that, Chad, is with what's called a fixed annuity. And one thing, Chad, that we always talk about in our classes is what day of the week do you spend the most money? And it's Saturday. And as we just talked about here, a lot of people think, oh, when I retire, I need less money. But what we find with a lot of people today, they need more money. So you need to think about what kind of lifestyle do you want to have in retirement and make sure you have that money coming in to support that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. This is something that, retirement's new for a lot of retirees, well, for every retiree when they decide to retire. So it's not a surprise to us to see this, that people actually start spending more money in retirement when all the studies show that you're going to spend less. And I think, when we see that there's a gap in your income and the income that's going to last, that needs to last throughout the rest of your life, you have to understand how can you fill those gaps. And as Chad mentioned, look at, do you have pensions? How much of that Social Security is creating the income needs you need? And if you don't have some of that and there's a gap, you've got to create that family pension on your own.
All right, so the second fear that you talked about is Social Security being reduced or even eliminated. That's the fear. How do we overcome that?
Well, I think number one, do not depend on the government to take care of you. Or your employer to take care of you in the form of a pension. Today, you need to be proactive, as Chad just mentioned, and build a game plan to take care of yourself and understand what you can and cannot control. And really, when it comes to Social Security, often when we get the question, a lot of you out there are probably wondering this too. When I retire, or now that I'm retired, should I draw Social Security or should I not draw Social Security? And there really is no right or wrong answer. If you go onto your computer, there's 100 different ways or 100 different examples on how or you should draw Social Security. And what I tell all of our clients, anybody that comes in that asks that question, keep it simple. Do you need the money? If you need the money, then start drawing out. If you don't need it, don't draw it out. In other words, if you're continuing to work at 62, 63, 64, then don't draw Social Security. So really, it's just about keeping it simple. But understand, Social Security is for you. And hopefully half of it for your spouse. But when both of you are gone, your beneficiaries are not going to get any of that Social Security. So don't go in and start drawing from your own personal savings first and dwindle that money down just so you don't have to draw Social Security. That's not what you want to do.
Well, and Chad, you kind of took my point, but that was the main thing. Is the number one fear is outliving your money, making sure you have an income that lasts. Number two, Social Security. The biggest thing is the husband and wife, that spouse, making sure if one of you is no longer here, making sure that income is going to last throughout the rest of that second spouse's life. And as Chad just mentioned, Social Security, one of those may be going away.
But like with everything else, it's an equation, it's a math problem. Sit down with the retirement specialist and talk this over. Don't just wing it, as we were talking about, and try to make that decision, because once you set it up, it is irrevocable. It can't be changed.
All right, the last one was declining health that requires long-term care. How do we overcome that fear?
Well, first of all, of course, you have to have a plan. So the plan would be, number one, I'm going to pay it out of our own pocket, which again, we talked about, $6,000 to $15,000 a month. Number two, have long-term care insurance. The problem, though, with long-term care insurance is, number one, if you pay into it 20, 30 years and never ever need it, your family could be out all that money unless you put a huge rider on it, which could cost you a lot of extra expenses. And number three, Chad, would be what's called a life long-term care, where if you pay into it for 20 to 30 years, whatever you paid into it plus how it's grown will go tax-free to your beneficiaries. And oh, by the way, if you need that lump sum for long-term care, you can also use it for that as well.
Yeah, and I think, just understanding the options you have, a lot of times, whether it's funding it yourself, taking out the traditional long-term care or using this hybrid. And a lot of times the retirees today, that hybrid approach seems to be where they're leaning towards when it comes to our experience, because if they don't need that, that's tax-free money passed to the family. If they do need it for long-term care, they have that bucket of assets to kind of pull from. And it just knowing those options and having that plan is so important.
I like that hybrid approach. Well, a reminder to download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Visit SlagoFinancial.com/empoweryou. And when we come back on our strategy play, the Chads are going to help you identify which lifetime income sources you do not have in your portfolio. Stay with us.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your monies that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to help you identify which lifetime income sources you do not have in your portfolio. And when we talk about that, again, one of the biggest concerns of retirees today is outliving your money. And the reason that is your biggest concern is because pensions are a thing of the past. Less than 20% of American workers have a pension. And of course, Social Security is not going to, for the most part, is not going to take care of everything. So what we want to show you right now is the 3 retirement lifetime income sources that you would have coming in. Now, a lot of people think about, what if I throw it in the market? What if I do this? Well, the problem is, Chad, and what I want everyone to understand, we talk about having your money in mutual funds, in stocks, in exchange-traded funds, that's a maybe income. And it might last, but it might not last. Why? Because number one, you have no idea how long you're going to live. But number two, we have no idea if the market's going to go up or the market's going to go down.
Yeah, and I think this is something that, we often talk about making sure you use all 3 worlds of money, in the banks, the Wall Street world, and that insurance world. So it's really just understanding solving for income, as we talk about for retirees today, is the first and probably most important step in that whole planning process.
Absolutely, because once you have that income coming in for you and your spouse for the rest of your life, then you can live your lifestyle. Then you can have those dreams once you've built that plan. So let's take a look at the 3 retirement lifetime income sources. And these are the only 3, when we put these up here, that are going to come in, if you set it up properly, each and every month for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live and no matter how long your spouse lives. Of course, we have pensions. They come in. You set those up. They come in each and every month for the rest of your life. Hopefully, you set it up. If something happens to you, it goes to your spouse for the rest of their life. And of course, Social Security we talked about, and Chad, annuities.
Yeah, and I think, when it comes to these 3 types, this is, as you mentioned, it's an income that regardless of how long you live is going to come in. That third one, the annuity, there's different types of annuities that are out there. Some are really good, some are really bad, depending on what you're looking for. So you really have to educate yourself. But these are the 3 pieces that you can put some money in, or regardless of how long you live, that income's coming in.
And when we talk about the annuities, Chad, as we go down here, we talk about creating your own family pension. The problem with pensions is, yes, it comes in each and every month for the rest of your life and the rest of your spouse's life, but if both of you pass away, most of the time that pension is gone. It does not go to your beneficiaries.
Yeah, and I think when we look at that, and that's a very good point, with this example, let's take Bob and Mary, for example, that they've worked hard, neither of them have a pension, They're both drawing their Social Security, so if one passes, they're going to be able, the surviving spouse is going to be able to keep the bigger of the two Social Security, and they don't have any annuities in place. They've got the majority of their money in the stock market where maybe they're drawing an income. So now all of a sudden, they want to make sure that they supplement some of that Social Security with an income they can't outlive. So as Chad just mentioned, creating that family pension, it's that the insurance world is the only place that they can get that income that they cannot outlive. And if something happens to them, that money's still passed on to their family.
That's key. It's passed on to the children in the most tax advantageous manner. Are you worried about running out of money in retirement? Do you need help building a plan so that your money lasts throughout your lifetime? If so, we encourage you to give us a call today, and that's this week's Strategy Play.
Thank you, gentlemen. If you have any questions about today's show, or if you'd like for us to discuss a new topic, email us at askchad@slagelfinancial.com to have your questions answered on the show. And we'll be right back with some of the key takeaways from today's show.
Your host and coach, Chad Slagle, and join
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice, appreciate it.
Thanks. It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning. In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have equity. Back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We have covered a lot of ground today. What would you say are some of the key takeaways, Chad?
Number one, make sure that you have an income plan that lasts for life, not to a certain age. It doesn't matter if you live to be 75, 85, or 105, you know that income will come in for the rest of your life. Number two, do not depend on the government or your employer to take care of you. Be proactive, build a plan, and now is the time to stand on your own 2 feet. Number three, make sure that you have a game plan set up for the unknowns. As we talked about earlier, Wendy, do not wing it when it comes to retirement.
Here's another opportunity for you to download our free white paper today about building a roadmap to retirement. Visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. And the Slagle Financial team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadslagleshow.com.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. This is about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague Chad Tobin, my co-host Wendy Erickson, this is the coach Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.
Clothing for the Chad Slagle Show is provided by AL Custom Clothiers, a custom men's clothier that understands the value of offering our customers the best for less. ALCustomClothiers.com or 314-570-6000.